In this video, we will add full calendar in our Filament application. You can see we have added the full calendar. Right below is the table. You can just drag and drop the events. It's updated. You can just click on an date and just type to create the event. Also, you can resize the event. Let me resize this. See, it's updated automatically. So just select the multiple dates and see the dates are automatically selected from 11th to 13th. Just give it as a title, test only, and just click create. Test only event is created. Also, it is updated below in the table. Let's start. So it is a fresh filament project. So let's open the project in our code editor. Let me open it in PHP Storm. You can use VS Code. And first of all, let's create a migration and model. I will call it event model and events migration. PHP artisan make model event and also create a migration. So a model and migration is created successfully. Let me clear the screen. Let's open the migration. Database, migrations, and here we have create events table. So let's add columns. First of all, we will have a title. So it is a required field. Then we will have start date. The column will be date column. Another column will be end date. Let's create this. Also, we will have start time and end time columns. Start time and end time. Also, we need to add a switch on our page. So that's why we need a Boolean column. And set its default value to 0. 0 means false. Let's set its default value to false. And make those time columns as nullable. So let me explain this code to you. So whenever we will create an event, the event will have title, start date and end date. Suppose the event is starting today or end date is tomorrow, or end date can be today itself as well. So means start date and end date can be same as well, but start date is, let's say, today and end date is tomorrow or day after tomorrow, can be any date. So we need these columns, and these are not optional columns. All these columns are required columns. Also, we have a option. We will create a switch whether we want to add time or not. If we will add time, then we have to toggle the switch to on, and then we will add start time and end time. Let me give you an example. Suppose you are running a hospital and you are organizing some special checkup camp, and it is on a particular date, let's say 1st of April, and it is starting at 10 a.m. and ending at 11 a.m. So start time in that case will be 10 a.m. and end time will be 11. So we are done with the migration. Let's close this file. Now let's create a filament page. Let's open the command terminal. PHP artisan make filament page. Let's name the page as events. So we are running this command, PHP artisan make filament page events. So I don't want it to be created in any resource, so just press enter. The page is created successfully. Let's clear it. Let's open app filament, and here you can see the pages directory is there, and inside that we have events page. Let's open the page. To add a table on page, we have to implement has table interface. Let's write implements has table. Make sure you are importing filament tables contracts, and also we have to use interacts with table trait, interacts with table filament tables concerns. Now let's write the method public function table. Inside this table, we have to use this class filament tables and a variable table. Also it will return table. So here we will add the columns. Let's add them. Text column, make title. Just let's copy this and paste it for rest of the columns. Start date, duplicate end date. Now we have start time and end time. Also we need to add icon column. Has time. Let's make it boolean. Also we need to implement a method, that is query method on table, to run the query. Now the model name is event. Let's save the page. Now we have to call this method on blade file. Let's open resources, views, filament, pages, events.blade.php, and call this method, this table. Save the page. Let's open the browser and refresh. Let's visit the events page. As you can see, the table is empty. So we have successfully implemented the table. Now we will add filament actions. Actions means In order to create an event, we will trigger action, and within the action we will have a form, and we will enter all the event related details in the form and submit the form. Then form will be saved automatically, and we will have the data represented in the form of table in front of us. So let's create this. To add actions and forms on the page, we have to implement the interface. Let's implement has actions, filament actions contract. Let's import the class and implement this. Has forms, filament forms contracts. Let's enter. Also we need to use the traits, interacts with actions, and interacts with forms. Now we will write the method for create action. Let's write it here above the table. Let's make some space. Public function create action. Which will return create action class. Make sure you are importing this filament actions. Make create, because it is a create action. Also we have to use a method model and write the model name event class. And we have form method. This form method will accept a closure, and here we have to write form. This one filament forms, and the form and form variable. And now we will build a form. Return form schema. Here we will add form components. So let's add the form components. Text input, make title. We need start date, so let's use date picker. Start date. Let's copy this. End date. We need time picker. Start time and end time. Save the file. And now we have to call this method, create action method, on the blade file. Let's call it above the table. Let's make some space. This create action. Let's save the page. Let's refresh it. So we have a button. Let's click on the button. As of now, please ignore all the styling part. Here you can see we have a form in front of us. Let's close this. Let's adjust this button. First of all, let's wrap it with a div. And give it class flex justify end, save the page, also run npm run dev. Let's refresh the page. Now it is looking nice. We have view event button on the right side. Let's open the form. And now it's time to add the toggle button. Let's close this, open the editor. Let's add it after the title. Toggle, filament forms components toggle, make as time, and let's set it to false by default 0. Also give it a label as time and question mark. And we have to make this field as live. On change of this toggle button, we have to adjust the values of these time values, time fields. So make it live. Let's refresh the page and check it. As you can see, now we have a toggle button right there. Let's make some changes to the form. When this switch is off, we have to disable these start time and end time fields. Also, we don't need seconds, we need hours and minutes only. So let's make these seconds false and write some condition to hide them with respect to this hash time. So let's start, close this, open the code editor. So let's write the condition. We have to make it disabled and let's write a closure. And we have a get method, filament forms get, and let's get the value of hash time, get, sorry, we have to disable this if this is false. So when it is false, then we have to disable this. Similarly, the end time, we have to do the same. Also, when this switch is on, means its value is true, we have to make these fields required. So let's write condition for required. It is required. Again get. When the value is true, its value is true. So now the field will be the required. Copy this and implement it to the end time as well. Also, we have to add dehydrated because we always want to include the value of start time and end time in the array of this form values. So when this the form will send its values like this title, start date, end date, we want these fields to be added in the array of those data. So let's implement dehydrated. Let me format the code. And let's try to open and refresh the page. Click on new event. Now you can see has time is off and this field is disabled. Also end time field is disabled. Also let's eliminate this seconds column. Open the editor, close this. Let's open the editor. We have to write seconds false. Also here seconds false. Let's save the page, refresh it. Now we have hours and minutes only in start time and end time. Let's switch this on. Now as you can see, the star is here and here as well. Now the fields are required and now we can enter the data. And also let me try to switch it off again. These fields are disabled and no longer required field. No longer required field, but we have to add some data to them. When we are switching it off, let's set their value to null. Let's close this, open the code editor. In the toggle component, let's write a method. This one, after state updated, it will accept a closure. And here we have to write the set method, set class, sorry, filament forms set class and the set variable. Also we have to take the state of this field. Means if it is off, then state will be 0, and if it is on, then state will be 1 or true. If state is false, means state is false, then set the value of start time and end time to null. Let's make it duplicate and end time as null. Sorry, here it is set. Let's save the page, open and refresh the page in the browser. Let's try to create new event. As time is off, so these fields are disabled. So let me switch on this. Now the fields are enabled, and let me show you one another thing. Let's write 10 a.m. and let's write it 11 a.m. And now suppose I have changed my mind that I don't want to add this time. So whenever I'll switch back to off, I will toggle this switch. These values will automatically reset and value will be set to the null for both of these fields. As you can see, the fields got empty and their value is set to the null. So that's why we have added this after state updated method, so that we can make sure that we are sending the value of start time and end time, and on the basis of whether these fields are null or are having some value, we have to write the logic in future when we will implement the full calendar right there in this page. So that's why we are writing it this way. So let's close the page. Let's open the code editor. And in this form, let's write some method to send the notification. If the form is submitted successfully, then trigger a notification, and if we got some error, then also trigger some notification. So in this create action, we have two methods for that. Let's implement those methods after this form method. First method is success notification. As you can see, we have success notification. It will accept a closure. So we have to write our notification thing right here. So let's use Filament's notification. Filament notifications make title event created successfully. Let's make this a success method and send. You can find this code on the FilamentPHP website. Just visit their notifications tab. You can find all this code right there. So let me add failure notification. Again, it will accept a closure. And let me copy this, paste it right there. Error. Please try again later. Please try again later. And we need a danger method so that the notification is red color. Let's save this. Also, we have another method. Let me write it for you. Method name is after. Let me share with you what is the function of this method. It will accept a closure. In Filament, almost all the methods accept closure. We can write our logic right there. So when data is saved in the database, we have to refresh the calendar. We will use it in the future for future use. Data is saved in the database. Now time to refresh the calendar. So I'm just writing the comments in this closure, and we will use this function or this method when we will implement this full calendar thing. So now let's try to fill the form and create a data. Refresh the page. New event. Let's name it test event. First, let's create it without the time. Let's write it 31032025. 3103. Let's create it. And we got the error, fillable property is missing. Okay, we can do one thing. Let me share with you a trick. In the app folder, in the providers, in the app service provider, and within the boot method, just write model. This illuminate database eloquent unguard and save this file. Close this. Now again refresh the page. Let's try to create the event again. We have to write the stuff again. Test event. Let's write the date. Let's try to create it. So event is created successfully, and as we have not chosen the time, so has time, we can see there is a cross icon right there. So it is the benefit of icon column that it is showing the icon, and we have implement boolean method on this. So that's why it is showing the icon as time. We have not set any time and its value is null. Okay, let me show you the table in the database as well. Let's open the events table. As you can see, has time is 0 means false, and look on the value of the start time and end time. The value is null in both the cases. So it is the reason I have used this method after state updated, and whenever we are just toggling it off, let's set this value to null, start time and end time null. So as we have not selected this value, so that's why the columns were null. Now let's create another field. Let's create another event. Now this time we will pick this time, event with time. Let's name it with time. I'm just giving you an example, so I'm just writing something random. Please ignore this. It is just a test data. And start time, let's say 11, and let's say till 1 p.m. 1 p.m. we have to write 1300. So it's 24-hour system. Let's create. Perfect. As you can see, has time. Now we have a tick mark. We have date, we have date, start date, end date, and we have start time, end time. Let's check the database again. Now has time, the value is 1. The start time is 11 and end time is 13, which means 1 p.m. You can format these things accordingly, but for the sake of this example and this tutorial, just keep watching what I'm doing, please. So let's close this. And now we have successfully implemented this table on the events page. Also, we have successfully implemented this create action. Let's open the form. As you can see, we have a button, create and create another, and cancel. Let's hide this create and create another. Close this form. In this create action, we have a method create another. Set it to false. Refresh the page. Let's open the form again. So now we have two buttons, create and cancel. It is looking nice now. So let's close the form. Now it's time to add full calendar. Let's open the website fullcalendar.io. Let's click get started. Initialize with script tags. Let's click on this. We need the JavaScript file. This file, you can download it and extract the file from here as well. Let me open this URL in the new tab. Copy. Let's open this. And I have to copy everything that is mentioned in this file. You can simply download it and add it in the public folder. I'm just copying it and will paste it. Copy. Let's close this. Open the project, and inside the public JS, let's simply add FullCalendar.js file. FullCalendar.js. Let's paste the code. Let's save the page. You can download the file and add it in public folder and inside the JS folder. It's your choice. For this example, I've copied the code and created this file and pasted the code. Both the pages will work. Now let's open this blade page. Here we have to include this script, this file, FullCalendar.js. First of all, let me divide this page to show you in which part we will add what type of code. Sorry, let's close this. In between this create action and this table, let me mark this area. Here we will add calendar. Space to add calendar, and below this table we will write all the JavaScript code. Calendar JavaScript code. Let's include that file. Assets and assets. Script. Source. It has already given me the hint, and yes, we will use this asset. Inside JS folder, we have to include this calendar.js file. And also I have to write data navigate once. It is a Livewire thing. Data navigate once, so that whenever we are navigating between the various pages, this thing is not reloading again and again kind of thing. So just add data navigate once. Now we have included the script. Let's add some HTML code here to add the calendar. The calendar will be rendered in this area, and for that we need a div with ID calendar. Let's ID name is calendar. You can name it anything, but let's give it a name as calendar. Let's close the div. And one more thing, we have to add wire ignore to this. Whenever we are navigating the pages, so make sure it is not reloading. So just add wire ignore. It is very important. I am again repeating, this wire ignore is very important, and you should add this, and please don't forget this. We can add it into the blade component, means component provided by the filament, that is filament section, x-filament section. Let's add it inside a section. You can add it inside a div as well. If you want to read more about this kind of blade thing, just open FilamentPHP.com. Let me show you FilamentPHP.com. And in the documentation of Filament, you will find these core concepts. Inside these core concepts, you have these blade components. And in this blade components, you can see all the components. And here we have this section blade component. Let me click it for you. As you can see, this is X filament section. I have used the same thing. X filament section. So you don't need to remember these kind of syntax and tags. Just open this filament page, their official website, and find everything right here. So just copy this and paste it. And below these assets, we will write JavaScript. And you know, in Livewire, what is the way to write JavaScript? We have to wrap the script in @script, and @end script. And inside this, we have to write script tag. And here we will write all the JavaScript code. Let's add JavaScript code. Open the browser, FullCalendar website, and let's choose this option, initialize with ES6 build system. Let's click on this. And let's copy this thing. We don't need to import all this stuff. If you are working with npm install system, then you need to import all these plugins. As we have directly included global script, it includes everything, means all these plugins are already included in our file. So we don't need to add this code in our file. So let's just copy this code. And paste it here. We are getting this div whose ID is calendar. We are just getting it. In this variable calendar el, we are getting calendar element, that is this div. And here we are initializing calendar class and passing this element in that. And this is the configuration thing, means these kind of plugins we are including. And on the header tool, these buttons, previous, next, today, and there will be a title and these sections as well. So let's save this file. So when you are writing the script in Livewire, make sure you are not leaving these empty spaces near the script tags. I have experienced some errors in the past during development of the project, so I'm recommending you not to include these kind of thing. I've just pasted this, so that's why these are the spaces right there, and we will remove it. So let me add this in a function so that we can, whenever we need to refresh the calendar in various events in the future, we will just call that function again to re-render the calendar. So just let's cut this code and write it in const calendar function. You can name it anything. Let's write arrow function. And paste it right there. Now we have to call this function. Let's copy this name. And we don't have to directly call this function. We can't do it like this. We have to, let me show you first. Let's click on this initialize with script tags. Let me show you very important thing. As you can see, document.addEventListener DOM content loaded. When whole page is loaded, then we have to render this calendar. As you can see, this is very important thing. In Livewire, we have a system, a method for that. Just follow me. Document.addEventListener, and instead of DOM content loaded, we have to write Livewire navigated. Livewire navigated. Make sure you are putting this colon between them. And again, let's add arrow function. And here we will use that function, calendar function. Let's save the file. Let's remove this empty line. Let's just refresh the page. So here's an error. Let me check why we are getting this error. The reason for the error is this is script tag, and I just wrote scripts. Let's remove S, save the file. Now let's open it. Let's refresh this. Perfect. The page is loaded successfully. We can see a section, a blank section, and calendar is not rendered there. Now it's time to render the calendar right there. Let's check the code. I have made one mistake. Let me share with you. In the public folder inside JS, the file name is FullCalendar.js, but here we have written js/calendar.js. So full calendar. As you can remember, it was auto suggested, so we blindly clicked OK. So we have to check whenever your code editor is giving some suggestion, or you have to see it carefully. So sorry for that. So, and second thing is, let me open this FullCalendar's website. In initialize with script tags, I know we have copied this code from initialize with ES6 build system, but as we have included the file at the top, this JavaScript file, we have to use this method. And here we have new FullCalendar.calendar. Let me highlight it. New FullCalendar.calendar. And here we are using new calendar. Let me just correct it. FullCalendar.calendar. And now save the file and refresh the page. Let me refresh. Calendar is again not visible. So it seems that there is some JavaScript error. So right click and inspect. And let's click on console. So here is the error. Day grid plugin is not defined. Okay, I got it. Let's open the code again. As you can see, we have plugins right there. And as I told you earlier, if we are including this script, all the plugins are already loaded. We don't need to write it separately. You have to write this plugins way if you are installing this with npm install system. So let's remove this line. We don't need this. Save the file and now refresh it. See the console, error is gone. Let's close this, and we have a calendar loaded beautifully on our page. Let me switch to the light mode. See, the calendar is loaded successfully, and today is 31st of March 2025, and you can see a light pink or light red shade which is highlighting that it is the today's date. And in the bottom we have a table with all the event details. We have added as of now these two events, one with the time and one without the time. So we have loaded the calendar successfully. So now it's time to bind the calendar with these actions. So let me highlight what we have done so far. Let me open the code editor. In the fresh filament project, first of all, we created event migration and model, events filament page, and within the events filament page, we created a function, this create action function, because it is inside the class and we must call it method. So we created a method. It was a create action, means we created a action. By clicking on the action, a form is presented in front of us and we have to fill the form. And after submitting the form, what we are doing is saving the data in the database, and that data is represented in the form of table with this method, table method. Let's try to add events on the calendar. As you can see, calendar is totally empty. First we will add dummy event, then we will create the event with this create function. Let's go to the FullCalendar website. Click on docs and we have events. Let's click on event model, and in event parsing, can you see this events object right there? So let's copy this. It's an array and inside it, it's a JSON object. Let's copy this events, copy this, and paste it here. Let's remove this comment. Also remove this comment. Let's create it dummy title and let's change the date 31st of March 5, 31st March. Save it, refresh. Here is the event. Dummy title event has been added to the 31st March. Let's try to change it. 29 March. Save, refresh. The event has been shifted to 29 March. Let's make it from 29 to 31st March. Let's save this. Refresh the page. Now here is the trick. Can you see the event has been created from 29 to 30? But what I have written right there from 29 to 31. But here the event is from 29 to 30. What we have to do is add additional day to this. Let me give you an example. Suppose I want to make it from 29 to 31st of March. What I have to do is 01 1st April. As I am not including time, what I have to do is add extra day to the end. In the end date, I am repeating it again. Whenever we are not adding this time, in start date and end date, we are not adding any time. We have to add extra day on the end. Let's save this. Now you can see Let's refresh the page. Now the event is from 29 to 31st. So just remember this because we have to treat this thing accordingly. So now create the event with time as well. So let's try to make it. We have to add t and let's say 10:00. Okay, again we have to add t. First of all, let's change the date to 29 itself, 29, and change the time from 10 to, let's say, 11. This hour and minute system, save the file and refresh the page. Whenever you are specifying time, you don't need to add extra day into this. So here it is. 10 a means the event will start at 10 a.m. So this is dummy title, and with time event will be shown in this way without that background kind of stuff. So just comment these events and save the file and refresh the page. Now the event is gone. Let's adjust the height of this calendar. We have height and let's write 600. Let's try this. Now it is looking good. This much height is sufficient. Now let's add these events that we have created earlier. As you can see in the table, let's add them in the calendar. Let's open the code editor. Every Livewire component has a render method. Okay. Public function render. And return the render method of the parent render. So it is showing some error. So let's see. Okay. The parent is returning this view. So let's return view. This view, illuminate contracts view. So there are so many other view classes. Make sure you are importing this illuminate contracts view. So here we will write our logic. So the question is why we are writing our logic in the render method. In Filament, whenever we are making any changes in the component itself, every time page is rendered and render method is called. So which means whenever we will make any changes to the the calendar event, or either we will delete it, we'll create it, or anything, any activity we will be doing with dragging and dropping anything, this render method will be called, and it will fetch the data from the database, and this data will be the updated data, and it will update the events in the calendar accordingly. So that's why we are going to write our logic and in this render method, and we are going to get the data from the model, from the database, in this render method. So events, in events variable we have event model, app models, event model, all. So now we are getting all the events. We have to run a loop for each. In the for each loop, let's say, sorry, events as event. Now we have two cases. Case 1, if start and end time is present. present means not null. Case 2, if time is null or not present in the table database. We will write the logic if, and case 2 will be inside else. So let me copy this. Let's write it inside the else. First we have to write the logic. If not empty, event start time and not empty, event end time. So if start time and end time are not empty means both are present, we will write the logic here. If they are not present, if time is not present, we have to add an extra day to the end. Yup, that's weird, but it is how it is. So we are putting the logic here because of this thing only. As I have shown you earlier, if the time is not present, we have to add extra day in the end date. If the time is present, we don't need to add extra day in the end, end date. So that's why we are doing this thing right here. That's why we have divided it into case 1, case 2, and our logic into if else statement. Now we need, let me first of all comment start date, end date, start time, and end time. We need all these things in this slot. So let's start. Start date, let's make a variable. Event start date. So we are getting start date. Similarly, we are getting end date. Let me press tab and delete these extra lines. We are getting start date from the event. We are getting end date. We are getting start time. We are getting end time. We have to modify them a little bit. Just cut this and carbon. We have to use this carbon class. Carbon parse and write this start date. And why I'm doing this, to just to ensure the format of this date is year, month, and day. Just to ensure if by mistake you are adding it in different format in database, just to ensure it is always grabbing it in this format. Okay, so let me just write the same thing for end date as well. Just paste here and write end date. Okay, now we are getting dates in year, month, day format. Obviously we need to format the time as well. Just copy this this carbon parse. Let's paste this. The format is hours and minutes only. We don't need seconds. If in some databases are automatically adding seconds, so just to ensure that we are not getting the seconds, I'm using this. Do the same for end time as well. Just copy this, paste it here, and make sure it is end time. Let's make a variable start date time, because I'm going to combine them. Start date and start time, and within this we have to write T, capital T. Let me show you again. As you can see, this is the date in year, month, day format. Then we have this T letter, capital T letter. Then we have this time, hour and minutes. This is 24-hour format, means 3 p.m. will be written as 15. Similarly, let's create end date time. Just duplicate this. End date time, end date, and end time. Perfect. We have created our first logic. See, now in else condition, we don't need to talk about time, because I have written for your reference the time is not present or null in this case. So we are using dates only. Let's copy dates, write it here. Okay. And this is the start date, this is the end date. We have to do one thing just before the format and this after carbon parse. I have to add day function, add day method. Just apply this, it will add extra day into this end date. Start date time as just start date. We won't add the start time in this case, and end date time as end date only. Now we will use these things, this start date time and end date time. After this else condition, let's add these values in an array. And first of all, let's define an empty array just before the loop. This is the loop. Before the loop, just just name it anything. Let me type error, just to, you can name it anything. Let me type ARR error. Now let's add data to error. Data we need to add ID, event ID, title, start and end, start, end. Let me just comment this for each loop. So just a reminder, you can say. So inside this loop, after this if and else, we have to put this data into this array. Now let's create a public property, events. public events. And in this property, add this data error, but we have to encode it in JSON format. So JSON encode and write this error. And after the loop, we have to call this render method from the parent. Now we have completed our logic, and each time this render function will run, the data will be saved in this events property. Now we will use this events here. Let's uncomment these events. Our data is already in the form of array, and inside the array we have this JSON thing. So what we have to do is remove this thing and JSON parse, and in order to access that events property, we have a Livewire thing, that is wire dot events. You can learn about this $wire in Livewire documentations. Whenever, let me share with you in a short note. In the class we have properties. Whenever you need to access this property inside the JavaScript, inside this corresponding plate.php file, what you have to do is you have to use this object $wire, and then with dot notation you have to call the property name. So we are getting that property right there. So this is a way you can learn more about this in Livewire. You can visit livewire.laravel.com for more details. So let's try if it is working. Let's open the page, refresh the browser. Perfect. Perfect. You can see the data is there because in both of the events date is 31st, as you can see. So that's why both the events are created right there. Now let's try to create an event with the action new event, special classes. Let's write special classes. First let's create it without time. So create it for 29th of March, and you can select the date from here as well. 29th of March. Or let's create it a multi-day event, 29 to 30. Let's create it. Event created successfully. Here you can see the event is automatically added to the table. We don't have event on the calendar. Let me just refresh the page and see what's going on. Now I have refreshed the page and the event is visible. Actually, whenever the event is being created, we have to refresh the calendar. I told you earlier, let me show you the code. In this events class, in the create action, if you remember, we have left this form, this method empty, and you can see what I have written for future use. Data is saved in the database. Now time to refresh the calendar. So let's write the code. Let's dispatch an event. This again, it is a Livewire thing. This dispatch, name of the event. Yes, let's name it refresh calendar. And we don't want to send it anywhere else, so just we can say self. We are sending it into this class only. So you can ignore the self as well, but because we are creating this, dispatching this event inside this class, so that's why I'm writing self. There is a method inside this. Now time to listen the event. Wire on, refresh calendar, and let's write arrow function, calendar function. Save the file, and now let's try to create the event again. Let me refresh the page. Let's create the event for 27th of April. Sorry, 27th of March. New event. 27 March event. 27. Let me just select this. Let's create. Now we have 27 March event created, and it's automatically added in the page, also in the table 27 March event. Let's now create an event with time. Let's create it for 25th March. Event test with time as time. Let's select 25th of March. And let's take the time as 14 to 16. 14 to 16 hours. You can write minutes as well. Let's say 16:30. 14:30 to 16:30. Let's create. Now the event is created for 25th of March. So whenever you are including time, it is automatically adding this some time kind of thing before the event, and event is of this style without any background color. So I'm not going to cover CSS part in this tutorial. That is a separate thing. So as of now, we have created the event with time. So let's create multi-date event with time. Okay, let's create it 2nd and 3rd March with time. Multi-date event with time. Actually, you have to write the event name here. Suppose you are organizing some seminar, some lecture. I'm just writing the random title. Has time? Yes, definitely. Let's say 2nd March to, let's say, 4th March. And event is starting from, let's say, 10 a.m. The start time is for the start date, means event will start event, actually it is the past date. Obviously you will be creating the events in the future dates, but for this example just consider it, you are creating an event for 22nd of March, and the start time is event will start at 10 a.m. and end date is 4th of March, and event will end at let's say 1800 hours at 6 p.m. So just create this 2 to 4 March. Here we have the event from 2 to 4th March, and event will start at 10 a.m. This is the title. Here is the title, multi-date event with time. So as of now, whenever I'm clicking on any date in calendar, nothing is happening. As you can see, I'm clicking, nothing is happening. Even whenever I'm clicking on this event, nothing is happening. On this event, nothing is happening, because we have to add this functionality as of now we have not added this functionality that whenever we are clicking the date and the create action will trigger and we can create the event and date is automatically selected. Whenever I'm creating an event from this new event, this start date and end date is empty. So every time I have to enter the date. But when suppose you are going to create an event for the future, let's try for the April. Let's say suppose you are going to create an event for 5th of April. Just click on the date. 5th April will automatically selected, and suppose you are selecting the multiple dates, just drag and drop, it will be automatically selected. So now we are going to create all these functionality. I guess you won't find this type of tutorial anywhere. So I have done a lot of hard work in the past, because in the past I have used some plugins, and whenever I updated my code get the Filament code and Livewire code gets updated, but because of some outdated code in the plugin files broken up and I was unable to use that plugin. And that plugin I was using in a very good project which was the fully ready, and at the last moment then I dropped that plugin, deleted the from my project, and you created the whole plugin on my own. So that's why I think I should create a video so that I can share my things, like you can easily create your own plugin so that you don't need to depend on any third party plugins. So to make your life easier, I'm making this tutorial. Let's start to add the functionality. Now let's click to add event feature. Whenever I'm clicking on a date, a form will open, and if I'm selecting multiple dates, let's say I'm dragging from 9 to 11 for example, the form will open with pre-filled data, the date from 9 to 11. I can just give it the title and create the event so quickly. So let's create this feature now. Before moving forward, we have to do is inside this calendar we have to make it editable true. Editable true, also selectable true. Now let's create all this stuff here. Click to create event. We have a select parameter. We have to write a method for this select function. Let's write comma. An object will be automatically passed within this function. First of all, let's check what's inside this info. Console log this info. My purpose is to show you to explain each and every logic to you. It's not just to show you how I am coding. So let's refresh. Right click and inspect. Let's switch to console. Let me try to click this 7th of March. See, when I have clicked on 7th, we have this object. Let's open this object. In this object we have data. It is end, it is start. So we are interested into this start str, that is start string. Similarly, we are interested in this end string 7 to 8th. Okay, let's clear this first. Let me again click 7 of March. Let me expand it again. I want to show you this start string is 7th of March, if you can see, and end is 8th of March. I have already explained you the reason. Whenever we are not using the time thing, it will automatically add one extra day to the end. So we have to give treatment to all these stuff accordingly. So as of now, just note down these two things: start string and end string. Let's delete this console. What we have to do is, let me close this. Whenever I am clicking on any date, I am getting data in this info object. Okay. Now I have to add this data into this create action. Let's copy the name of this method. We have to copy this name method, not this class. We have copied this. Here we have to write wire dot mount action. Here we have to write the method name we are referring to, that is this create action method, and comma, we have to pass the data in the form of this JSON object. It will be automatically passed into this and we will collect the data here. So first of all, let's pass the data. We need start date and end date only. Start date info dot start str. Similarly, end date info dot end str. So now we are triggering this action whenever we will click on a date, on a single date or on a multiple dates. What we are doing, we are triggering this action, create action, which means this, and along with that we are passing start date and end date. Now we have to remember this start date and this end date. We will collect the data with the help of this start date and end date. So let's collect the data. Inside this form, we will have arguments. That data will be included in this arguments, and we have to get the data from these arguments. To set the start date, okay, let's write default method and function. Let's pass closure, and within this function, inside this we have to use arguments. So in order to use arguments inside this function, what we have to do is we have to write use arguments. Now we can use these arguments into this default method. Okay, first of all, let's write the logic. If not empty, start date. If the start date we are getting from arguments array, okay, let's filter out this start date. Now we are getting start date from this arguments. We got the date. Now we have to check if it is empty or not. If it is not empty, then set the value as this date. If it is empty, then you can set current date. Let me share you the logic. Suppose we are clicking create now button. In that case, this argument thing and this thing is empty. Then by default, today's date will be automatically set as default date in start date. And whenever we are getting this date from here, then it will automatically set right there. We are done with the start date. Now it's time to add the logic into the end date. Also make this start date and end date as required. Okay, let first of all let's write logic, then we will write that. Just copy and paste this thing. Just copy and paste. Instead of start date, we have to write end date. If end date is present, we have to do a little changes in there. If end date field is not empty, if you can remember, we are getting one extra day. So now we have to remove that extra day from here. So what we can do is carbon parse. As we are getting an extra day, we have to remove sub day. Sub day means subtract a day. Okay. So from end date, if we are getting it from this, just subtract the day. We are done with this. Now let's open. Let's refresh the page. So let's try. Let me click on this 14 March. Perfect. As you can see, in the start date field, we have 14 March selected, and in the end date, we have 14 March selected. This is working so good. Awesome. Okay, let's close this and let me select multiple dates. Let's say from 18 to 20th of March. Let me click and drag from 18 to 20. Click and drag. As you can see, there is a light blue color for 18, 19 and 20 March. Let me just release the button. Awesome. So start date is 18 and end date is 20 March. It is automatically selected, and what we have to do is just say test select event or just anything. Just click create 18 to 20th of March, 18 to 20th of March. So whenever I am clicking on 20th, let's see, it is again opening with that date. So our select to or click to add event is working successfully. Also selecting multiple dates and triggering this action is working successfully. Let me try it again for you. Let's go to the next month. This is the April, because it is a clean canvas as of now. So let me try to select 10, 11 and 12. Let me click. As you can see, 10 to 12 are automatically selected. For single day, just click on any single day, automatically date and end date is selected. Also, let me show you another thing. When you are clicking this new event button, earlier this start date and end date was empty, if you remember. Now by default, this date has been set to today's date. This step is successfully completed. Now let's create another feature. Suppose whenever we are clicking on the event, I'm not talking about the date. Let's see, I'm clicking on this test event. As of now, nothing is happening. Let me go to the March. So there are so many events. Suppose I'm clicking test select event. Nothing is happening. But whenever I'll click on 18, a pop-up will open. So now our duty is to create this feature, like whenever I am clicking on any event, either this type of event or this type of event, a model box will open which will show all the details related to the event. You can see on this 25th of March, this title is not fully visible. Also on 31st of March, this title is not fully visible. So in order to see it with more clarity, when we will click on this, a model will open which will show the complete timing, start date, end date, the time, because the time is not visible right here. only the starting part is visible. For as of now, let's say 25th of March, it is showing that event will start at 2:30 p.m. But when the event will end, it is not visible in the calendar itself. So we are going to create this functionality. Whenever we will click on any event, a pop-up box will open. That is view action actually. Earlier we have implemented create action. Now we are going to implement a view action. So whenever we will click on this, view action will be triggered, a pop-up box will open, and it will show us all the details. Okay, so let's create this feature. Let's open the code editor, this events.blade.php. You might have noticed we are working on these two files only for most of the time, because most of the code is written in these two files only. With this select method, let's create, there is another parameter. You can write it either after select or before select. Let me write it before select. Its name is event click. Event click. Again we have to write function and comma, and within the function info object is available to us. Passing data to this info object is taken care by this FullCalendar script only. We don't need to worry what's going on behind the scenes. We need this info object only, and we have to grab the data from this info. Again, before directly writing the code, let me show you what is inside this info. Let me console log. Just to show you what we are doing. I hope I have explained the things in a simple and well explanatory way. So first of all, let's see what's inside info. Just open the this docket, click on console and refresh the page. We have to refresh the page first. Now let's click the event. Let me click on this event. You can see this is the info object. This whole data is inside the info object. Inside info, we have this event object. Let's open this event. Please note the steps. First is info, the whole thing. Inside the info, we have this event, and inside this event, we are getting so much stuff right there. And this is the end, this is the start, everything. We don't need this thing. We need ID only. Let me expand this. This ID is 6. Okay. Let me just open this code and let's go to the events class. Remember, we have passed this ID. That's why we have passed this ID, because for every event we have a ID. So it was the reason we have passed the ID right there in this array. So for every event, ID is available. Its ID is 6. Let me clear this. Let's try to click on this 29 March event. Let's open this info object, and inside that let's open event, and inside that we have this ID. Its ID is 3. Earlier the ID was 6. Its ID is 3. We need this ID only. Let's close this and close this. Just remove this. As of now, we have not created view action. We will create in the next step, but just pass the data. This wire object, mount action, view action. Let's name it as view action, and also copy this. We are going to create this view action method just after this, and pass the data in object format, we need to pass only ID. Okay, the name is ID. It will be included in arguments automatically. We will grab this ID from arguments, and as I have just explained to you, inside this info object we have this event, and inside this event we have ID. So in order to get to the ID, we have to write this thing, info.event.id, and let's name it as ID, and this ID will be available to us in arguments array, and we will get it from arguments array. Let's save the page, and now it's time to create this view action. Let me just comment view the event dialog box or model. Obviously we will add the edit button inside this model. Let's come here and just below this create action, you can create it anywhere. Let me view action right here, view action method here, just that is just a comment. Now let's write public function view action again, it will return action. Return view action. We have to import this filament actions and not this filament table actions. These are different kind of actions. We have to import filament actions. Whenever we are working with actions inside table, then we need to import this. We are not working inside table, so we have to import this filament actions. Just name it view. And we have a method called record. Inside the record, we have to pass a closure. And we have to return event model query where ID is arguments ID first. As of now it is looking perfect. What we are doing is we will open the box that is model for the ID only. The event ID will be grabbed here, and we will get the data with respect to that ID only. Now after the record, we have infolist method, and infolist, inside infolist again we have to pass the closure, and we have this infolist class filament infolist. That's infolist variable will return infolist. You can if you are confused what's going on right there, you can check the documentation of this info list, this form, um, these kind of thing, even these actions. You can get all the information regarding this from the Filament PHP official website. So info list schema, inside schema we have components array. It's not text column, it's not giving correct suggestion. Okay, in info list we have entry, text entry. Import this filament info list component, make title, start date. Okay, text entry, make start date, end date, perfect, start time and end time. Let's save the file. So let's refresh the page, click on an event. Here it is. We have title, we have date, we have end date, we have start time, we have end time. Let me just add it into a section. It's your choice only. It is just, I'm just polishing the things up. Section, this filament info list components section, make and schema. Inside this schema we need to write all the stuff. Save this, refresh the page. Let's try to open this. So here you can see we have title, start date, end date, start time 14:30 to 16:30. The benefit of section is you can write columns. Let's say 2 columns. You can read more about this and make title column span full. Let's refresh this. It is just optional thing, just a formatting. As you can see, the first column, sorry, the first field is written right there, taking the full width, and here we have start date, end date, start time and end time. As time is not mentioned, let's click some time based event. Let's click on this. Perfect. As you can see, this is the title, start date, end date, start time and end time. Now it's time to add edit button. As you can see, we have close button only in this. Now it's time to add the edit button. So it is just a bit tricky. You have to explore more documentation on this, but let me try to explain it in a easy way. So let's implement this. Let's check what is the title of the model when we are clicking on the event. Title is view event. Okay, also we have to change this title and we have to add edit and delete button in this model. Let's open the code, and in view action class, info list is ending right here. We have model heading. You can see model heading. Let's implement this method model heading and event details. Let's type event details. Let's refresh the page. Click on any event. Now the model title is event details. It's nice. You can write any text you like. Also, it accepts closure. If you want to write some logic, you can write it here. We have to implement another method, that is extra model footer actions. Extra, here it is, extra model footer actions. Inside we have to write this closure, and it will accept array of arguments. Array of arguments. And this extra model footer actions, in its return method, it accepts an array, because we can have more than one button. First, let's add edit action. Let's import filament actions. Make this action as means we have to write edit. Whenever we will clicking on this, it will trigger edit action. We are going to write that method next to this. As of now, just remember this. And whenever we are clicking this button, it is going to trigger an action, and this action again will accept a closure. I know it is very confusing. And we have to get arguments inside this action. So here we will write use arguments. Here we have this replace mounted action, edit means replace with edit. And now we will pass the arguments in the form of array. As you can see, we need id only, as you know this. What's going on? Let's delete this. So in this array we have passed id. Perfect. Let's check it. Refresh the page, click on the event. We have the edit button right there. I'm not going to click on the edit button because we don't have any edit method as of now. So first of all, let's create this edit method. Edit method means edit action. Obviously we are talking about the action. For edit action, first of all, let's copy this create action method. It is similar to this. Just copy the whole create action. I have just copied this, paste it here. Now just make the changes. Instead of create action, let's write it edit action. Obviously it is returning an action. Let me write it here as well. We need edit action, not the create action. Filament actions. These actions are already mentioned on the documentation. So it is a filament thing. You can read more on this. Can you see this name edit? We have written the edit here. Here it is edit. Here it is edit. Again, model is for create action only. For edit, it is record. For all the methods in which we are working on a particular ID, we have to call this record function, and here we'll have arguments, array, return, event model, query, where ID is arguments ID, and just get the first record. Form will remain the same. Just this is not the right method. Just remove this. Form will remain the same. Instead of event created, let's say updated. When editing will be finished, updated. Error will remain the same. And let's refresh the calendar when editing will be completed. Let's save this and let's refresh the page. Click on 27 March event. Let's click on edit button. Perfect. Now edit event dialog box is open. Let's click it again. Let's click on edit. So the title is here, 27 March event. Let's say updated. And if we want to change it, let's make it as 28. Let's see if we are updating this. 28. Let's ignore the time as of now. Save this. See, the event has been shifted to 28. You will find this is the 27 March event updated because we have updated it to the 28 date. Earlier it was 27 March. And as you can see, we have 28 date and we don't have any time. So now let's try to edit some time. This 25th. Let's click on this. Start time is 14:30, 16:30. Let's try to edit the time. Let's change it from 14:30 to 15:15. Let's make it 15 hours. 15 to 16:30. Save changes. Event test with time. Event test with time. See, it's updated 15 to 16:30. If you want to see, just click on this. See, 15 to 16:30. It's updated. So we have implemented this, the editing thing and viewing thing. Now we have implemented click to view all the event details, and also right from the view dialog box we can edit the event. We need one more button to delete the event. Again, open the code. In this view action, here extra model footer options. This was returning an array, and on the first we have this edit. Let's copy this edit, copy this comma, and now trigger delete action. Instead of edit, let's say delete action arguments. Right here, delete. We need to pass the argument ID only. Let's save it. Refresh the page. Click on any event. Let's click on this. Here we have delete. The color is same. Let's change the color for delete. We have to call color method, call and write danger. Now our delete button will be in red color. Let's click on any event. Perfect. We have added, delete and close. You can close this model by clicking anywhere outside this as well, like here. It's closed. So far it is working very good. Now let's create delete method. Below this edit method, let's create delete method. Delete action. Public function. Delete action. This one, filament actions. Again, I'm repeating. If you are using the actions in table, then you have to use this filament table action. We are not working in table. We are working outside the table with actions. So we have to import this filament action. Again, we have to delete a particular record. So we have to write this record method. We have to write model method when we are going to create something. Here we will have arguments, array, arguments. Okay, it is the same thing. You can copy paste from above as well. Event query where id is arguments id and first. So we have one after method. It will again accept the closure. After is for just to refresh it. It will automatically take care of the delete thing. You might be thinking like why I have not added the delete kind of stuff. We just need to refer to the record item. We will grab it with the help of arguments id and we will select that record only. This method will automatically delete it. Filament has already done the coding behind this class, so we don't need to take care of this. We just need to refresh the calendar. When something is deleted, just this thing. That's all. Let's try to refresh and try to delete some event. Let me try to delete this 29th of March event, special classes. Click on the event. Let's click on delete. The confirmation dialog box is here. Confirm. And the event is deleted for 29th of March. You can check it here as well. Let's delete some other event. Let's delete this time-based event. Delete this. Confirm. And it's deleted successfully. So far our system is working perfectly. This is super awesome. Now let's make this sortable. Start date in the table. Start date, make it sortable. See, I'm not going to explain more things like filters kind of stuff here. I hope that are the basic things. You know them very well. Let's refresh, and here we can now sort with the start date. So it is working perfectly as of now. Let's add more features to this. Now let's create drag and drop feature. As you can see, we can drag and drop this event, but it will not get updated in the database as of now. Let me refresh the page, and the event is at its original place. Now let's implement this feature. Whenever we will drag and drop the event to some other dates, it will automatically update the dates in the database. So let's create this. First of all, let's check this JavaScript, and inside this calendar's code, after select, we have event drop parameter, event drop. Again, we have to write function. Also, this function will have info object. Let me write a comment on this. Drag and drop an event. First of all, let's see what's inside this info. Console.log info. This event drop will trigger whenever we will drag an event and drop it somewhere. Let's see it first. Let me open the console. Let's open the console and refresh the page. The console is empty. Now let's drag and drop the event. From 2nd of March to 4th of March, let's drag it from 9 to 11. So the object is here. Let's see what's inside the object. Again, this whole object is the info object, and within this info object we have this event object. We are interested in this. Ignore everything. Let's open this event. Now we have entered the event object, and we need three things. This is the ID. First we need ID, start string and end string, means start date and end date. It's not only the date actually. Start string means if the time is there, then it will be like this way. First is the date, then is the T letter, and then is the time. Similarly, this is start string. This is the start date, letter T, and this is the start time. Let me clear this and click on the event which don't have the time factor. This 18 to 20 event, let's click on this. Sorry, we have to drag this. Okay, 18 to 20, let's drag it from 18 to 20 to 20 to 22. Let's open this event from 20 to 22. Start string is this. Here you can see it is very simple. Only the date is there. We don't have the time factor included. Also in end str, you can see we have only the end date. And you have to notice one thing. Whenever we are dragging and dropping the event, like in the earlier, one day is extra. I'm again repeating, like the case was earlier. Whenever we are dragging and dropping this event, the end string is adding one extra day to the date. See, our event is from 20 to 22, but here it is 23. Let me clear. And this is when you are not mentioning the time. When you will mention the time, then let's see what is the thing. From 9 to 11, let's drag and drop this from 12 to 14. Let's open this event and end str 12 to 14. Here it is 14 because the time element is along with this. We have to take care of this thing whenever we will write our logic in the method. When we will have the time, we won't subtract an event from the end string. Whenever we won't be having any time, like in this case, then we have to subtract the event, date. Subtract one day from the end str. So this is very important thing. So let's start coding. Let's close this. Delete this. Again, wire mount action. In this mount action, let me name the method. We are going to create that method. As of now, we have not created it. Let's name it, let's say dropped event, because it is getting triggered when we are dropping the event. Let's say dropped event. Let me collapse this. All letters are small case. Dropped event, and we have this arguments thing. This is perfect. Let me press the tab button. We need three parameters. First is id, which is into info event id. Then we need start date, which is inside info event, not start. It is start str. End date is inside info event, not end str. Create this function, this method, dropped event. Let's open events. Let's create the method here. When event is dragged and dropped, public function drop event. Again, it is going to return action. Return action make dropped event. Within this action class, we have another action method which will accept closure, and here we will have array of arguments. Now again we are going to write our logic. If time is present and if time is not present. Case 1, check if time is present. Case 2, that is else, check if time is absent. Means only date. So let's write our logic. If So in the if, we have to check if time is present in start date and end date. We have we have to use PHP's function. We have a function called pragmatch. If you want to learn more about this pragmatch thing, uh, if you are really new to this, I would definitely suggest you to read about this PHP pragmatch. You can read it from here. There is some less data, I can say. You can read it easily from, there are various sources available. uh, I hope you can understand. Please read it about this pragmatch method. Pragmatch method will check if something is present or not. Whenever we are using some pragmatch or pragmatch all kind of stuff, prag replace thing, we have to use these kind of delimiters, and then we have to write the logic which we are going to match. And the second argument is we are going to match against, you can say, argument here, like arguments start string, sorry, it was start date. Let me recheck it. We are getting this here, start date. Let's copy this and start date. We are matching if we have this letter T inside this start date, or it is inside the end date. If it is present, let me write it for you. If time is present, do not subtract a day from end date. So start date equals arguments start date, but and end date will be arguments end date. We have to modify this code. Let's pass it from within carbon, parse this thing, just to ensure, like we have done it earlier as well. Format, just to ensure there is a correct formatting. Let me duplicate this, and end date, let me write end date, just remove this. So we are done with this start date and end date. We will use them later. As you can see, we have this time element present in this start date and end date as well. Now we are using this format. It means we are eliminating the time. We are just getting the date from this in year, month, day format. Similarly with the end date. And in else we don't have time parameter. Let's paste this. Everything will remain same, but from the end we have to subtract a day, sub day, simple. Also we need id will remain same. Let's write id here, id, get it from arguments, and id. Now we have id, Now we have ID. We are getting it from here. We are getting start date and end date, either from this case or from this case. Now after this else condition, let me separate the code. Just create a little separator. Now we have to update the data in the database. First of all, let's get the event. Event model, query, where ID is this ID. Now we have to update event, update, start date, and end date. Also, let's check if updated. Let's just send the notification. If updated, notification, make title success, send. Also refresh the calendar. Let's refresh the calendar as well. Where is the dispatch method? Here it is. Copy this, paste it here. Else, just copy this notification. Instead of success, danger, and write error. Please try again later. Let's use extract this refresh from here. In both the cases, we need to refresh this. Write it here. Let's try to check it. Refresh the page. This is the 31st March event without any without any time, with 31st March as its start and end date. Let's just try to, so this is the 31st March event. Let's try to drag and drop to 30. You can see updated successfully, and on the table now it is 30. Perfect. So this is the long event from 18, 19, 20. Let's drag and drop it to 23, 24, 25. The event name is test select event. Here it is, test select event 23 to 25. As you can see, 23, 24, 25, 23 to 25. Now let's try to change this multi-date event with time. Where is the multi-date event with time? It is from 2nd March to 4th March. Time will remain same. Multi-date event with time 10 to 18. Let's change it from here to, let's say, 12, 13 and 14. Multi-date event with time, see 12 to 14, and the time is same 10 to 18. And now if we want to see it, when we click the event, see we have new dates 12 March to 14 March, and time is the same. In order to change the time, we have to click on edit button, and we can change the time in this dialog box. So far it is working perfectly. Now only one feature is left, in which we can resize the event. Resize the event means this event is from 12 to 14. Suppose we want to make an event. I'm just giving the example of this event or any event. We can just drag from here and drop it, and the event will be resized to the particular date. So we can't resize the events with time. Here it is 10 a.m. So whenever I am putting my mouse at the end, it is not getting changed to, this resize thing even at the front. But whenever this is the timeless event, it is from 23 to 25, but time is not there. So we can do is, whenever I am keeping my mouse here, as you can see this, there is a sign to stretch or to collapse this event. So as of now it will not work. I've just changed it, but it has not updated to the database. Let me refresh the page. It will take its previous place. As you can see, 23 to 25. Now we are going to implement this method. Resizing the event is very simple. Let's open the code. We don't need to write any extra method for that. We have event drop. We have event resize object. Just copy this. First of all, let's comment resize an event. Okay, so just paste it here, and instead of event drop, let's write event resize. Everything else will remain same. We will use the same method, because whenever we are resizing, the concept is same. Whenever because it won't work with the time, so it will be automatically catched by case 2, and it will automatically subtract the extra day from the resize event. So let's see, refresh the page, and let's note down first test select event. Here we have test select event. Its dates are from 23 to 25. From 23 to 25. Okay, let's resize it. See, updated successfully. Now its dates are 23 to 24. Here you can see its date are 23 to 24. Perfect. Now let's click on this. Here as well, the dates are from 23 to 24. So in case we need to add some time, just click on edit. Click on hash time, and you can put the time parameters here. Let's try to drag and drop it somewhere. Let's drop it to the April month, 2nd to 3rd April. Let's select event. Here it is, 2nd to 3rd April. See, the dates have automatically updated. Now let's check the April month. See, we have from 2nd to 3rd April. Let's stretch it to the 5th. Let me click on the April month again. I have stretched it from, now it is from 2nd to 5th April. As you can see, 2nd to 5th of the April. That's where it is, that table which is automatically updated, and our component is automatically updating whenever we are making some changes. We have successfully created our own, you know, you can say plugin or whatever you can call it. You can call it component, you can call it page, and you can also, instead of this page, you can create this a widget. Whenever you will be creating it as a widget, you can use it even in dashboard or on various multiple pages where you want to show it as an widget. If you want it to be in a page, then just create it in a page. If you want it to be in widget, then create it as a widget. So we have created a beautiful, you know, functionality. We have successfully implemented this FullCalendar JavaScript. So as you can see, this is super awesome. Now the rest of the thing is the styling thing. It is up to you. That is a separate topic. You can uh, write the tailwind classes in app.css, or as per your convenient, you can style it accordingly. So friends, thanks for watching, and do like and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of the video of this kind of video. Usually i'm trying to I'm trying to touch the topics which are not usually being explored by most of the people, most of the software developers on YouTube. So I'm trying to make videos or tutorials on those things which are actually a challenge. Means you can get so many tutorials on how to create a software in Filament PHP or Livewire. These things you can easily get. There are so many hundreds of tutorials, even thousands of tutorials, but you will hardly find such kind of tutorial which is in so much detail and giving you some extra, you can say, this is really challenging if someone is new to Filament or this kind of programming, to implement this FullCalendar in the, page and in their application. So thanks for watching.